And we've seen crypto winters before, and I'm hearing many refer to this episode as a crypto winter. But what strikes me is we haven't had a crypto winter as interest rates rise. And now that's the environment we're currently in. How concerned should we be about the sell-off in crypto? And what is the correlation between crypto assets and other more traditional risk assets? It seems pretty strong right now.
Yeah, right now it is. I mean, we've heard the narrative over the past sort of 5 or 6 years from, in particular, the Bitcoin community suggesting, Bitcoin could be some sort of hedge against inflation as well. And we haven't really seen that. What we have seen, in fact, is Bitcoin very heavily correlated to equity markets, and in particular, the NASDAQ and tech stocks. And whenever there's a sell-off in the NASDAQ, you often see corresponding moves in Bitcoin and in other cryptocurrencies as well, such as Ether, Ripple, etc., etc. Well, one of the things I'd argue now as well is not only is there that correlation with the traditional equity markets, but also crypto is facing its own issues now. And we see this when crypto winters come. If I take you back to sort of 2017 into 2018, at that point, there was a lot of boom in what was known as initial coin offerings, effectively these crypto companies issuing new coins, raising loads, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of money, but effectively just collapsing shortly after. And what we're seeing now is more projects that are coming in different areas, things like those algorithmic stablecoins we spoke about with Terra USD, and now with Celsius, this lending platform that's promising users up to 18% yield. These are raising red flags, and these business models are coming undone amid this extreme volatility. And that's certainly something we're going to see further collapses now in different areas. And so we'll be interested to see when sort of stocks move in perhaps the upward direction eventually, whenever that might be. What does crypto do? Do we see that correlation continue, or do we see crypto sort of try to deal with some of the own issues it has right now?
Well, Arjun, one of the key pillars to the bull case for crypto over the last several years has been that network effects will take hold and critically institutions will get involved. And we have, of course, seen some big institutions over the years get involved, take big positions in things like Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies. What does the trajectory look like now, though, for institutions that are obviously struggling in other parts of the market? Is that part of the bull case now sort of gone? And if so, does that mean that some of these cryptos are in for a potentially terminal existence?
One of the things we have seen is many people say, well, look, we don't think Bitcoin could go down as far as perhaps it was, let's say, back in 2018 even. And we've seen already it dropped to 2020 levels. And the reasoning from those people is that, well, the institutions are involved. They're propping up this market at the moment as well. But I think what you are seeing is, of course, as we see market turmoil across the board, across many different asset classes, crypto is probably one of the first things that people are going to sell off. Institutions are going to sell off as well. And while there are large institutions, playing in this space, we're not talking about sort of some of the largest banking players in the world, for example, yet. We're not talking about some of the largest investment players in the world yet. A lot of these sort of more traditional areas of or traditional institutions are still very concerned about this space, about the lack of regulation, about the volatility in the space. And so we haven't seen them necessarily jump in quite yet. Of course, again, you speak to proponents of the industry who say there will be a bull case for it. They say, well, these institutions will eventually come on board as regulation plays out, as these assets become more stable. But clearly what we're going through now really is a shakeout period. As I mentioned, there's going to be a lot more collapses like we've seen so far. And there are sort of further, I think, business models that will be tested under the current conditions. And you will see a shakeout. Many in the industry are saying, well, this is certainly a good thing right now. It gets rid of those bad actors as well. But the question is, I mean, how much long-term damage does it do to investors in this space? I think that's something we're going to see play out over the next couple of years.
Well, absolutely. And what kind of damage does it do to the reputation, and then in turn to the way prospective investors think about crypto? When you speak to your sources, to experts around this sector, what are the levels to watch for Bitcoin? What are people saying now is the potential floor for Bitcoin here?
Well, 22, that once we broke sort of through the 25,000 handle lower to that, there was a sense that it could fall lower to 22, and we have actually seen that as well. There seems to be a little bit of consolidation around this level at the moment. So I think the market's saying, well, if we manage to hold above this for a while, then you could see a leg higher. But certainly there's not really any conviction at this point to the upside, given what we are seeing in equity markets, given what we are seeing with the macro environment as well. As you mentioned at the start, interest rate rises top of mind at this point, and what's happening in other risk assets as well. So there's not really sort of anything at this point that signals something that could be a catalyst for further leg higher for cryptocurrency at this point, and Bitcoin, particularly, as I mentioned as well, the fact that the industry is dealing with some industry-specific issues. Celsius, what will be the contagion and fallout from that? How much will this company have to liquidate to sort of meet its obligation from its depositors? So these are all questions yet that haven't been answered, and one of the things we saw from the Terra USD issue was the fear of contagion from that debacle that happened. And so, again, the implications yet of the Celsius issue is not known. And, of course, as I mentioned, there are likely to be other kind of projects that do come to the fore with issues over the coming months. And so what will be the contagion effect of that? And ultimately, how much is that going to weigh on the market over the coming months?